Just to, sure you'll get a notice about recording. Just to recap, like it's not bad or good, right? And actually, like we're not, when we talk about this stuff, we're not making any kind of value judgments or anything like that. The reason why it was like that, and there's still a little bit of that, is very logical. But the reason is because Florida moved really early, like way before customized employment or discovery was in the Rehab Act and WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act. So there were people doing just like the CBTAC services, where there's not many states that are doing that self-employment supports that way. The effort was, we want to do good work and we want to provide services that help people, right? And so they moved real early. And so as happens, things get embedded in systems, and then they're not so easy to change once they're coded, right? And once they get in policy and stuff like that. And so as always is the case and should be, like the innovations that happen on the ground, as people are practicing, as we're learning how to do better work, how to be better at customized employment, they change pretty quickly, right? And so the reason in the past discovery was seen as its own thing was because that was at the time kind of the viewpoint, maybe, and so that's how it got embedded. And but now with the changes, and then there was the pause of aware. So a lot of stuff is outside of everybody's hands. It's just some big level systems changes that everybody's been experiencing, and everybody's kind of been at the mercy of is figuring that stuff out, right? And so now we're at a point with the services being defined and where we can talk a bit more about how to deliver these services in ways that fit the fidelity approach of customized employment. So those of you that will be going through the ARTSI training, either you're learning as a counselor or providers or as mentors, we've learned a lot in the last, since discovery was first introduced. And one of the things Nancy and I and the mentors are going to be talking about a lot is the fidelity scale, or doing customized employment to fidelity. And it's just basically a quality standard, and it's evidence-based. So the idea is as we've learned over time, we've learned to stop doing things that weren't working, right? We don't want to do things that just because I have an opinion or anecdotally it worked this one time, but doesn't work on a larger kind of scientific, systematic scale. We've learned to put down those things, and we've learned to work more towards the things that can be proven by evidence-based standards, basically peer reviews, statistical analysis, all that kind of stuff. So everything we're telling you now is with that in mind, that it's just not our ideas. It's because of the data. We send data as we do the work. It gets analyzed by Utah State University, and we're trying to help customized employment become an evidence-based practice. So you'll be hearing a lot about that in both the trainings. So what the evidence-based practices say is that discovery, like we said last time, is the first phase of customized employment. If you remember, there was another slide that had the different phases spelled out. So discovery must lead to customized job development. And so to remind you, qualitative mean it's descriptive, not measure. We don't measure things, right? We don't use numbers, right? Or comparisons or traditional assessment. We just describe what we see, right? As best we can. And we get to know people in a strengths-based way. And people can't fail it, right? So that's the part. Discovery cannot lead to can't benefit from services or somebody's not ready. Discovery must lead to customized job development. So it assumes employability, and then it's our job as practitioners to find what that stuff is and chart a way forward. The interesting thing in Florida, and Veronica, I see your face here, so I don't want to pick on you, but is that discovery, it's great because discovery, and we bumped into this barrier in other states, is that discovery can be used in two different places as employment seekers are being intook, right? They're going through the intake process. And one is pre-eligibility, and then the other is post-eligibility, right? So, which is really wonderful. So discovery is still kind of described as a separate thing. And I think that's a lot of probably why is because there's these two places where you can use it. So I didn't know if you wanted to say anything about that. Again, I feel a little like when I'm talking about policy, I'm not qualified. But I think
Yeah,
that's a lot of why maybe, it's like it is described as its own thing. It's discovery
right.
customized employment, but
I
yeah.
think it's partly like a system issue why we had to make it separate, but we do want to make it clear that discovery and customized employment are tied together, and discovery is the first step of customized employment. As you mentioned, Russell, discovery can be provided before a person has an IPE. It can be used as part of like the plan development process to kind of inform what may go on the IPE. So the idea is if a counselor feels the person needs that service, you can get it started even sooner than when you have the IPE in place. And there's separate fee codes and things of that nature that are used when that's the case. But it can be used before the IPE or after the IPE is written. Um, there's those two options as in
Awesome.
terms of when it can be provided.
So did I use the wrong language when I said before eligibility? Is that not correct? It's before
I
plan
think in
or
Myrna, you may have to check me on this. I want to say that it's set up to be done after, like during the plan development
Yes,
stage.
that's
Yeah,
correct. And
I
I
have to be
apologize for
eligible.
the
Yeah.
background noise, but
no worries.
very quickly, yeah, they have to be eligible in order to receive the discovery phase of it. But it can be done prior to plan development.
Okay, cool. Um, great. So apologies. So that's why I don't want
Yeah.
to,
No
unstate.
worries.
So cool. Awesome. Okay, great. And then the idea is like Veronica had mentioned that in the fidelity approach, and we want to be clear, like the process of customized employment and the practice, the methodology. I like to think of it like more like a trade or an expertise that it exists independently of any system, if that makes sense. Like it's like being a carpenter, or I don't know what if another trade. That's the first thing that comes to mind because my house is falling apart and I need a carpenter right now. But the idea is like people learn best practices and funding works differently, and the state has certifications or whatever. But being a good carpenter, right, is always the thing that exists before all that, right? And as people learn new processes, new techniques, and like we learn not to use asbestos, then hopefully, right, the systems always tend to lag and follow best practices, if that makes sense. So when when Nancy and I talk about customized employment, like we're talking about the practice, the delivery of the expertise. And so then when we talk about like systems, how they support that, like that's an attached conversation, but it's the whole idea is how do we build something that supports best practice, evidence-based, customized employment, which the idea is it has the greatest likelihood of providing services that people will benefit from. So that's when we say that, and when we talk here, this is what we've learned in the fidelity approach, that customized job development will always follow discovery, right? It's the immediate next step. And that doesn't mean that you don't find that people have needs, right? A lot of them around transportation, could be, needing to access resources for attire, or maybe there's a particular training that is like skill-based development, not a readiness or interview practice, but like, let's say, the reason I said podcast earlier is I'm working with somebody who's going to do a pod. They don't call it podcasts now. It's pods, that if you're in the, it's like we're doing pods now. So he knows how to do it like on his own, but we want to learn how to do it on a business. Like, so it's upgrading the laptop. It's using different technology, better software and better mics. And so it's like we need to help him learn how to do that stuff, right? He doesn't need to take a class and become ready to do that. They're all going to learn together, but that doesn't mean you don't access mentors or experts or specialists that can help you learn those specific skills. So whatever that may be for people as they are on their career journey. So sometimes people will be like, the question is, well, how, does it always lead to customized employment? for customized job development? Yes, it does. It doesn't mean that you know, what we mean is that there's nothing, there can be no, well, you have to do this first before you start the employment process. So we can engage, we'll learn about all those, you know, who people are and what supports they work for them, and maybe needs or barriers or gaps. And part of customized job development is taking all that on, you know, as we engage in the employment process. So to not use those as excuses or as reasons why things can't move on to the job development piece. So any questions about that before we introduce Denise and start talking about some of the specifics? So that is customized employment now.
Russell, I just wanted to stress a few things that we had stressed last month, or not last month, the last training conversation. See, we're still trying to get the right language because we do want these to be a conversation. We want there to be a culture of exchange and learning, and not a web-based kind of webinar. But just a couple of things. One is that the AGR certificate that's earned after someone receives the training and they pass the post task goes to the individual. It doesn't go to the organization. And then the other thing that is important to understand is that the fidelity scales are a good thing. They help the individual understand what they get right, what they can improve, and what they excel in. And every evidence-based practice is required to have fidelity scales, and they're required to do fidelity reviews. And if that does not occur, then whatever the focus of the methods that are being given the status of evidence-based practices will lose that status. So those are interlinked by requirement and by function.
Cool. And thank you, Nancy. Fidelity can be a scary word. In my brain, it's always quality. It's quality standards. You know, like that's and fidelity just means true to the process of, you know, so and we'll be talking a lot about that in the trainings that are coming up, the ACRE trainings and conversations about in these conversations and other places where we bump into y'all. So okay, so no thoughts or comments or questions? I do want to put my email in the chat. Sometimes it doesn't, you know, people, if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, that's cool, no problem. You can email me. And Nancy and Denise, if you wouldn't mind doing that too, just put your emails and you can email questions.
Let's see.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to pull up the Discovery PQR. I'm pretty sure that's Programmatic Quick Reference Guide. And then talk about, like, we'll show what Discovery, how it's broken out now compared to how it was. And Denise, if it's okay, I would love to ask you to introduce yourself, and you can help us talk through this together, if that's okay.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. Can you see
Can you hear me, Russ?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, very clear.
I'm always having trouble with my microphone, so.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. My name is Denise, and I am the owner of Career Options of Citrus County, Inc. And we've been in business since 2019, and we do, you know, the Discovery service. We provide that, and customized employment, and supported just the regular services for the Florida VR. And just recently, I've been working with a young man that has been in the Discovery service, and we just finished up his service, and had his post Discovery meeting. And at that meeting, we discovered that his IPE did not say customized employment, and it said supported employment. So that was one thing that I kind of wanted to point out was for all the service providers to make sure when you are working with an individual during discovery that their IPE does say customized employment. And when I spoke with the VR about it, the VRC, she said, oh, yes, that's right. And so now that has to be amended. So that's going to take a little bit extra time to get that amended, you know, to say customized employment. And then we explained to the boy's mother exactly what customized employment was and how, you know, we were working with them to provide him more support and getting a job that's detailed directly with his task, you know, with his skills and his interest. And we have a business pretty much set up for him. We just don't want it to fall through the cracks. And this has kind of put a little damper on it, but the VR counselor has really been good trying to work through and get everything approved as quickly as possible. But I just kind of wanted to recommend that all service providers to make sure, you know, that that is on the IPE, customized employment. Because one thing that we found in Aware, when you receive a new authorization, which more than likely the new authorizations will have the customized employment on there more than likely, but you never know. So before you accept an authorization, it's best to ask the counselor for a copy of that IPE or any other documentation that you feel that you know would be beneficial for you to review, but especially the IPE because it lists out all the services that the individual will receive. And so it's best to request that before, of course, you accept you know, the individual as your participant or the person that you're going to be providing the services to. The reason is it was encouraged, you know, to do that before you actually accepted, you know, the authorization. So from now on, I'm going to do that in the future, you know, so we'll definitely know for sure because I have a copy of the IPE in hand, you know, and to be able to review it, you know, when you first start providing services.
And were you saying, is that because once you, and I'm sorry if you said this and I misunderstood, once you accept, once it's in Aware, then you can't get the IPE or it's harder to get the IPE?
I think it's more difficult because it was just encouraged by the VR, according to the meetings that we went through, to actually request the documentation ahead of time.
Okay.
But I'm sure that, you know, the VR counselor would work with you, you know, to
Yeah.
get you a copy of it if you emailed her or called her.
Okay.
You know, I think it's really important to keep that communication open between you and the VR counselor that you're working with.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I've been blessed with
Yeah.
with good VR counselors.
Nice.
And she's really trying to help this young man because she's so excited for him. You know, when we discussed some of the things that he had done, the places that he had visited, you know, while we were in the post-discovery meeting, and then how it's turning out, you know, that it's leaning towards this one employer. And this is another thing I would like to suggest too, like when you're doing customized employment discovery, it's really good to depend on social networking. That is so important because depending on who the individual knows, what type of businesses they're in, or they can help you find a business, you know, that they know a friend, they have a good friend that has a business that, you know, might be willing to work with you to find that customized employment spot for that individual.
So that's something, and what you're talking about, like in terms of how to access the community, it's definitely best practice approaches. And I think it doesn't have to differ from more traditional approaches. I think it just does. I think that in traditional approaches, we're asking where the jobs are. So that doesn't require help from anybody else. You can go look online or, you know, whereas when we're asking, well, what businesses make sense, you know, where is it in the community that makes sense for you? We don't care about the jobs, but what businesses, it's not always clear how you're going to access those places, right? So I think that's where those relationships, and that's part of the best practice, fidelity, quality approach. The other thing you're talking about, so that's awesome. Thank you, Denise. The other thing
You're welcome.
that we really do struggle, and this is just, it's not an only customized employment thing, but it's definitely something that we've all learned, is that customized employment, all pieces of customized employment are built strongly on momentum, on movement and motion and flow, and rhythm, right? It's just like it all kind of fits together like a beautiful like jazz kind of freewheeling piece. And so sometimes it's not necessarily the point of discovery, but sometimes during discovery you find opportunities. Like you have, right? You went to a business, you talked to a business during discovery, and there's a place there that's potentially an option for somebody, a possibility. So like timing is so crucially important. And so like you're saying, like the counselor's awesome. She's doing everything she can. Counselor, changing an IP, amending an IP isn't, people can do that. That's not that's in the system, right? But just the time that it takes to when the systems aren't matching kind of the flow, we know how, like the thing I like to say, like business moves in real time. Opportunities come and you've got to be able to respond. And in light, like from the perspective, it's like, it's like Einstein's theory of relativity. From a systems perspective of real time, it seems like light speed. Like things are moving real fast. And so it is important both when you're, and that's one of the fidelity measures, is how long does this take? For both in discovery, what the transition from discovery to customized job development, what's that time period look like? Because you have all this wonderful fresh information at the end of discovery, everybody's so excited, right? And we have some options. And then if we have to wait because of a systems reason, again, not saying that's anybody's fault or personal, not making it personal in any way, but just we understand and that's going to happen anyway, like there is going to be a systems drag. We get that. But what we want to do is try to minimize that as much as possible, anticipating, like you're saying, like check to see that customized job development is the next service, not supported employment. Is it, when you get the initial authorization, is it possible to get an authorization for discovery and customized job development, or is that so far in the future that it wouldn't make any sense to do that at the time? Does that make sense, Denise? I'm asking, because they're tied together, could you get it reserved in some way?
That I'm not sure. I know when we first received his service, when I first accepted it as my participant, it actually said customized employment services. And and even though it was like in the stages of discovery, and when you would meet each one of these benchmarks, I would refer to it as discovery, but it still would say customized services, customized employment services.
Okay.
So it did refer to that. And so even though it wasn't in the IPE, actually, it was, as far as aware, it was noting that.
Oh, okay. Because looking at, so this is discovery. Let me pull up. I'm so sorry to do this to you. Let me pull up. So discovery, it's literally called, and let me know again, Myrna and Veronica, discovery customized service. I think that's what it will say, Denise, in Aware. Is that what that service would be called?
I know there's different like headlines across in the Aware program. And I know one does refer to, like, say, discovery stage 1.
Yes.
And then on over, it'll say like customized employment services. So it's designating that it is falling under.
Okay. So
So for clarification, and Veronica, by the way, she had to step out into another meeting, but for clarification purposes, the IPE, when they're developing the IPE, they would have to check off customized employment. Otherwise, discovery services won't be an option if it's not checked off from our end, from vocational rehabilitation's end. And once customized employment plan is checked off, then discovery in the different stages will be able to be placed into the plan, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, cool. So still may not be automatic. So somehow supported employment
Mhm.
fit in there after discovery. So still may not be
Yes,
automatic.
supported
Yeah.
employment falls, it'll fall under that umbrella, correct?
Okay, so there's still a second check, which it'd be, and again, we're a team here, right? And we're all in this new system. And when I say we all, I mean you all, because I'm not in Florida, but this new system, making it work for everybody is everybody's responsibility. So Denise, like what you're saying, once you understand, like, oh shoot, like customized employment wasn't there, and then you talk with the counselor, learn how to check on that, to support the counselor essentially as they're learning, because they have a lot to right. Customized employment is still a pretty small part
Right.
of all the stuff counselors are doing, and they're way overworked. So
And
as much as we can help them, yeah.
Just to interject, the VR counselors are supposed to also check off supported employment, because customized employment falls under the supported employment umbrella. So when they're doing the plan, they would have to check off both supported employment and customized employment.
Okay.
Mm.
So that's something then we need to figure out then, like why in this case was supported employment there, but not customized job development. That's just something that would be a conversation.
In that case, most likely, it could have been that the vocational rehab counselor may have not checked off the customized employment option.
Even though they got a discovery referral?
Correct.
Okay.
They have to check off customized employment. That's something that they have to do on the plan when they're developing the plan.
So they would check both support employment and customized employment?
That's correct.
And then specifically state customized job development.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
The important thing, just as we're looking at the path to where we are today, that change occurred with WIOA in the last amending process, where customized employment fell under supported employment. So there's community or competitive integrated employment. I'm sorry, I always want to say community integrated employment as the overarching heading. And then under that is supported employment, and under supported employment is customized employment. And while it did cause some confusion and some dismay among some professionals, that's what that's all about. And I just wanted to make sure folks knew that history.
Cool. Okay. So wanted to point out, and Denise, if you wouldn't mind helping us talk through this. This is a major change and a wonderful, even though I think it's frustrating. I think some providers compared to like with the different codes now that customized employment, discovery, and customized job development are in Aware. Didn't used to be in Aware, but now they are. There are these different stages, different pieces of discovery. One of the things that I just want to point out, and Denise, you can speak maybe to how the change feels and has impacted you as a provider, and the assumption as other providers, is prior to this change, and again, nothing's perfect, of course, but this is way better, than the way it was designed before. Discovery was you either finish discovery and get paid, or you don't finish discovery and you don't get paid a dime, right? Up or down.
Right.
Paid or not paid. And I worked with some people who had made it pretty far, and then something happens, not of their, right, the person moves or gets illness or out of everybody's control, and the person has doing discoveries put in substantial work and is not able to get paid for it. So and Florida VR was very aware of that and worked really hard. So Myrna, Jose, Veronica, everybody at Florida VR deserved tons of kudos and credit to changing the process so that there are these stages. And so as you complete the stages, you submit and bill, invoice, and get paid for the piece that you complete. So it's not, I just would, as a provider, that's pretty risky, right? working with somebody. How do you determine whether it's going to be completed or not, right? There's things that you can't. So Denise, would you mind just sharing like your experience, how it was before versus these changes now? Okay.
Well, the changes that have been made are a lot better now,
Mhm.
compared to what it used to be. Because like you were saying that you had to complete the discovery and go through the whole process, and then maybe you didn't quite finish it, and then that was it. For whatever reason, it could have been on behalf of the participant that something medically happened, and they weren't able to complete it, or just for various reasons. But this, it kind of keeps you on focus too, these the different steps, like the services, say like the home visit and the observation, it kind of lays it out for you, like you kind of know step by step, what is coming up next. And then it helps you keep focused, like and aware, because once you've done the home visit and it's been processed, then the next step will be the community observation and interview. And then that will appear, to get started on that. So it kind of keeps you focused, and it probably helps the VR counselor kind of know where you are with the discovery process. And I always like to, well, I'm sure it's mandatory anyway, but like each step as I go through, I always include the VR counselor, as a copy of that, so that she knows, what's going on, and she can read, the places that we've been or the people that we've interviewed, just things like that, to keep her up to date on all that. And I think it is required, that you submit that with like when you're submitting like requests for payment, and you have to submit all your documentation then. But I usually do it ahead of time too, send it to the counselor just so that she can review it and make sure that, she does approve it and that everything's okay with it.
Yep.
But
Well,
these
and
steps are
I'm sorry.
definitely a lot better, and aware now.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a sort of a stumbling block, I guess, to get uh, used to aware after, using perm for so long and just kind of getting the hang of it. And then we got the new system, but it's coming along, I think, a lot better. And the VR has helped because they've had like monthly meetings, and people ask questions about how, you can do this or what can be done, and so they're trying, I think, on their part too, to, really help the service providers.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Is there also
Mhm.
like a monthly report now that's new in Aware? I think in this, I'm just curious if you've noticed that in the CBTAC,
Oh,
they may have said that that's a requirement now. Have you
well,
bumped in?
we
Was
do
that
like
always the case? Oh, sorry.
do the monthly progress reports. We
Progress
do that
report.
every month. Yeah.
Was that the same thing prior to Aware? Is that
Yes.
consistent?
Yes,
Okay,
it
it's
was.
consistent. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So maybe it was just CBTAC that's new. Definitely, I think a great insight. And as like Nancy and I as mentors, I love it because it keeps, like you're saying, kind of becomes this project that you're managing, and they can measure progress a bit more closely, right? If following these different
Mhm.
feed codes and at the process from top down, start to finish. So it helps, I think, helps us, help when we're mentoring or working with providers to help keep on track. And then I think that part you said about including the counselor during the process,
Mhm.
I think is even the monthly notes, if you're doing those, and that's awesome. I just think things can kind of get lost a little bit, in the old way, like where again, counselors just have so much on their plate
Right.
that they're managing. It would be hard for me to kind of
Mhm.
sometimes keep track of where providers are. If you lose touch with them, people have other stuff going on. And so I think, having these check-in points, and what if it's like an email or even a quick, like, hey, do you want to talk for 5 minutes or 15 minutes? In some other states, we have these benchmarks, like we'll schedule a quick 15-minute like Zoom or Teams or conference call, just like, hey, let's check it out. Do you have any questions? So we'll let you know what we did, where we are, and where we're headed, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So these are just natural places, I think, of kind of communication, of check-ins, of understanding, really, So, and then the part
Mhm.
about getting paid, is from a
Mhm.
provider perspective. It seems really great. The other thing I just add, the other thing is the rate did end up going up too. I think it was before it was
Mhm.
1750 for completing discovery. If you add all these up, I came up with 2,650, so about 900 extra dollars. So does anybody have any comments or questions about that before we move on to customized job development? Okay. All right, I'm going to pull up the EQR for that real quick. Now, this is, I think, what talking to folks at Florida VR, I think this is where using the customized, it's called customized employment, is the, from Nancy and I's perspective, it's everything from the end of discovery before day one on the job, customized job development. So this is where I think things would it seems like, discovery would end in the past then, and we're talking about customized employment then, and it will go somewhere else. I think when folks looked at the code and how often it was used, customized employment, which means customized job development, the process of helping people customize a job, wasn't used too frequently. Like it would go to some other service maybe, or supported employment. And so just want to walk through this. And Denise, have you had the experience of using this authorization in the past?
Not yet.
Okay. So in the past, if people moved on to job development, would it be mainly under supported employment? If they moved on to after
Yes.
discovery, you're helping. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instead of customized employment, it went into supported employment.
Gotcha. Okay. So and the funding, it's milestone based or outcome based, I guess I would call these, right? So you complete the CE plan, and so what our tool is called the job development staging record, stage 1. It's basically a lot of the discovery information from the profile gets essentially copy and pasted over it. So it's basically what's the story, right? That piece. You relook at the team as part of the plan. Like, okay, so the discovery team members are really, really important during discovery. They are at a premium. There's no time that they're more important than during customized job development. Because like Denise said, the more people you have lending a hand, opening doors, sharing relationships, contacts, their social capital, the way smoother customized job development will go. So that in customized, part of the plan is who's the team, who have we met during discovery that we can pull in to lend a hand in opening doors during customized job development. Then there's some discussion about like marketing materials, working at full potential, like what's the target in terms of pay and hours per week, that kind of stuff, financial plan, what people want to do with their money. And then it ends with you revisit the lists of 20 businesses, 320s, three listed, 3 themes, vocational themes of 20 businesses per theme. You ask the team to help you come up with some new ideas. And then you begin a plan. Like what we say is you approach businesses when you're learning, approach businesses 5 at a time. So you end the CE plan with what are the first 5 businesses going to be that you're going to business engagement, you're going to do outreach to, and what's the plan for who's going to do the contact. And then the rest. So that's the plan, is essentially transferring information over from the end of discovery, reconfiguring, revisiting who the team is, what working goals are, identifying businesses, targeting them. And then after that, the rest after that is business engagement. So there's a $1,500 flat fee for finishing the plan. And then the rest is contingent on work, which is, it's the same. I think there were in supported employment, there were 2 like pre-categories, but then after that, it was all, it's the same thing. It's based on outcomes and I can actually share both those It should have support employment one too.
Let's see here.
I'll just share my desktop.
Yeah, for supported employment, the two previous categories are pre-placement training and the career support inventory, which would
Yeah.
be sort of similar to the customized employment plan.
Let me share my desktop. Here, let me know if you can. Can you see those now, Denise and Nancy? There should be two.
Yes, they're very
Okay.
clear.
Okay, yeah, on the left
Mhm.
of my screen, this is customized employment. And on the right is support employment. So it is it's built, in terms of you can see the payments are the placement here is 2,668 versus the 950 for support employment placement. And the reason is because there's going to be more detailed work that's typically done in customized employment.
Right.
Of the negotiation essentially. But it's cool. I mean, support employment still requires a job analysis. That's pretty cool. So. Cool. And then the rest of them are the same, I think, right? The 30-day retention, stabilization, transition outcomes are the same. But the big difference here is the flat fee for CE versus the 950. And then these two, you don't have this pre-placement training, career support inventory. Again, that's all stuff you're going to learn during discovery. The equivalent, right? It's not the same, but the plan is here for customized employment. So you have, Denise, you have not done this. So you're, hopefully this person you're talking about will be the first time that you're going to experience
Right.
using this code or this referral. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have about 10 minutes left, so I think almost perfect timing for to ask people to jump in with any questions or conversation points. Yeah, again, we hope that these do turn into as much as possible, even though there's content we want to share and we want to deliver, but just FYI in the future too, like people can jump in at any time to ask questions. You could raise the hand or just start talking, whatever, or chat. But are there any, I mean, the cool thing, like for this, like we're going to talk, Sonia, the next two, CVTAC is the whole process is pretty, it's all intact. Nothing's changed in the CVT process. It has changed. It's gone into aware. Whereas, like discovery, like we're talking, it has changed, pretty significantly. And even though the customized employment or customized job development may not have changed a lot, it just hasn't been used as much. So just the engagement there is going to be, so a lot of this stuff in the customized employment piece is pretty new. Whereas CBTAC stuff is not new. It's new and aware, but the process is still the exact same as it's been since 2014. So anybody want to jump in, or Myrna, Jose? I think Veronica is gone. You said I can't see the.
Yeah, Veronica had to jump into another meeting, but I like the fact that you spoke today about the fidelity and how the data was collected to show the structure of the discovery itself. It's not something that has just been made up. It's something that has been researched, and there is data that substantiates that the discovery customized employment actually works. And I think that that's very that's key to this process, because a lot of people tend to think, okay, this is another format on how to do an assessment or do, do a service or a program, provide a service or a program. But in this particular case, there's been research that substantiates that this actually works. So I'm really, I thank you for sharing that, because I think it's very important to know that. And anything that has to, I'm really good. I love data. So, and that's probably why it intrigues me so much. But anything that has to do with data and this particular service, it captures that. So, just the fact that it does that and it validates that it does work, I am really excited about this particular discovery customized employment services. I think it's awesome. So I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, as I get older, I just like my time is limited. Like I can see the horizon. I don't want to spend time doing things that I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. I want to do things that I know will work if we do them. I also want to have the understanding that we're always learning, we're always trying to get better, and that the cool thing about the Fidelity is it's a objective review, right? It's like not Griffin Hammis looking at the stuff, not Nancy, not Russell measuring. It's like it's a peer reviewed, like objective, like it's the way science should be, right? Like it's got to be verified, got to be validated. You need enough data. I mean, we're still at the point we need a lot. We're building the data, so we still have a ways to go. But we definitely I've learned a lot, and so, yep, Myrna. Yeah. Myrna, I don't know if if that's a waving or okay.
That's a clap. That's a clap.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I was just going to stress too, a critical concept, if we can call it a concept, that ties back to Russell speaking to the momentum, is urgency. We're talking about people's lives and having options. People have been pushed to the fringe and devalued and laden with low expectations. So closely tied to keeping the momentum going is that sense of urgency.
Absolutely. All right. Well, cool. We'll end a little bit early. So I appreciate everybody for being here. Denise, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. And Nancy and Sonia, I'm super excited for the next two. So I'll reach out to you probably later this week, and we can touch base next week, me, you, and Monica, and Nancy, and do some planning. Should be really exciting.
Sounds perfect.
Everybody here, if you want to learn about a recent startup that's kicking butt and can't keep stock of supply, you've got fans. You got deadheads following you around, right? You've got people who show up. It's like you're on tour. You're on tour or something. Yeah.
We too. So yeah,
Nice.
it's overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah. Cool.
Russell, real quick, right before we disconnect, there's a question in regards to, and the chat, it says, how can we access this training again?
The recording.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is, I haven't figured out yet. I need to ask our Dallas, our admin person. We have these are recorded. They're on the web, and I need to figure out a way to probably put on YouTube or create a channel or something, and or we could talk to you. I don't know if you all want it to be somewhere else, Myrna, but we'll get them up, and then we'll get it out and share it with everybody.
And Russell, it's great about packaging them so they're accessible. We did some work in another state developing brief trainings in a library. So I know we will have those all pulled together, and Dallas will keep them updated.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll make sure every one of these gets up somewhere to share. Okay.
Well, thank y'all. What a great opportunity to meet with such a wonderful group of folks who, again, invest in how to continue to make things better options for folks with disabilities. Bye, everybody.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And then, hey, Nancy, I was just gonna say, I'll send I think if you're okay with it, I'll email Jeff and just suggest we get together. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
Just talk real
absolutely.
quick. Okay.
Right. And would you like me to work with Dallas on editing